What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we diving into my Demir budget zombies deck, the one I created in the video. If you haven't seen here on the channel, will probably be linked somewhere in the video as the video kind of goes on. We'll be diving into the deck itself, kind of going over the deck list. Just in case if you haven't seen that video and this is the first time you've seen the deck list, we're kind of talk about the budget version of the deck list, play some games with it, and then we'll dive into the end of the video and we'll talk about how to go about upgrading, what cards maybe to look out for, what cards to maybe craft if you are looking to play more Demir zombies. With that being said, if you like the video, hit that like button. It lets me know you guys like these videos. If you're new here, want to post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. It puts a +1/+1 counter on the channel, which definitely helps out a lot. With that being said, let's just dive into the deck list and let's just talk about it. With the release of Innistrad Midnight Hunt, we kind of got a couple new cards to the zombie tribal in the idea of we have things that kind of help us create more zombies and actually benefit us being a possibly zombie tribal style deck. There were some cards that were here prior to Innistrad, but we got a couple cards that kind of elevate zombies to the kind of little bit of a next level to where it is actually probably playable and actually pretty competitive depending on the matchup. With that being said, here is my budget version of the list. We only play 4 rares in the deck, one of them being and it's 4 copies of the same card. It is one of those things you can always work up into if you don't have it. If you have other zombies that maybe you'll see in the upgraded version at the end of the video, you can skip ahead there. I'll probably have the video broken out in case you're looking for whatever part. I'll also have the deck list down in the description below if you just want to copy, put it in Arena, kind of take a look at it yourself and kind of analyze and kind of make your tweaks that you'd want to. But we're going to start with this. We are playing Snow Mana. Just to start it off, the lands in our deck are Snow. As it kind of benefits us playing Nefari, Betrayer of the King. It's kind of like our one zombie lord that is a 5 mana 4/3. But if our opponent, for any particular reasons makes us discard any cards, we can always actually cheat it on the battlefield for only 3 mana, which is kind of a win. Also, if it doesn't get exiled, we can always return it back into the battlefield if this does get destroyed. And it's at instant speed, so we can do it whenever, though it does come into battlefield tap. So we can kind of catch our opponent off, off guard if they're not paying attention to the effect of this card. Other than that, the deck list is pretty straightforward. We are playing some Bloodchief's Thirst, kind of messing around with it, seeing if this is kind of one of the other removals in the deck list that we kind of want to keep around, or if this is something maybe we want to remove. The one downfall to it is a sorcery speed removal, though the benefit is for 4 mana, we can actually, destroy a target creature or planeswalker with mana value of any value. For the 1 mana, we can destroy creatures with a mana value 2 or less, or planeswalker with a mana value 2 or less, though I don't think there is any currently in the format. Then we have the next card, which is kind of like one of the rares I do think make zombies somewhat competitive, and that is Champion of the Parish. It's a 1 mana 1/1, which doesn't seem very impressive, but whenever a zombie enters the battlefield under our control, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on Champion of the Parish, which then in theory, if we get him out like on turn 1, if we can draw him on turn 1, we can essentially get a very big zombie by like turn 2 and turn 3 once we start getting some of our zombie lords out and playing other zombies in our deck. So this is kind of one of those cards, if our opponent can't deal with it early, it is something that our opponent's going to have to be taking a beat down for over the course of the game. Then another card we are messing around with at the 1-drop slot is Eaten Alive. This one is as additional cost to cast a spell. We have to sacrifice a creature or pay for additional mana. The one benefit to this one is we get to exile target creature or planeswalker. So, we do play, Shambling Ghast in the deck, which is a card that, maybe we want to sacrifice maybe to get additional trigger to either create a treasure or put -1/-1 on a creature. So this is kind of one of those cards that kind of gains that little bit of a benefit, maybe sacrifice in there. Maybe this is a card we play over Bloodchief's Thirst. Or if you're just more of a fan of Bloodchief's Thirst, you can always take these out, put in 4 copies of Bloodchief's Thirst. But, something I wanted to mess around with. It is a common, it is kind of like has 2 different ways, though it does cost a little bit more mana than a Bloodchief's Thirst. But the benefit is it does get to exile, which kind of gets around if our opponent has anything to make their creatures indestructible. Then we have Rotten Reunion, which is another interesting card here. It is kind of a cool card as, since Innistrad introduced a lot of flashback and disturb, which is things that kind of allow you to get things back from your graveyard. This is kind of a card that kind of eats those cards. You get to exile up to 1 target card from graveyard, then you get to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. Essentially, Decayed is a new mechanic that on these zombies that when they come out of the battlefield, whenever they attack, you have to sacrifice that at the end of combat. The only other downfall to them is they actually can't block either, so they're kind of more so as aggressive soldiers that we're just going to swing in at our opponent, maybe when we're ready to swing in very heavily. Maybe once we have a couple zombie lords out, though we're not really worried about them if our opponent does decide to remove them. But this is kind of one of those cards that we can do at instant speed and actually flash it back for 2 additional mana to do it again. So if there's cards you just want to get rid of and make sure our opponent doesn't recast, this is kind of that card that we are messing around with to see if how well it currently works, depending on how the meta kind of goes. Then we kind of talk about Shambling Gas. This is a key card that came from D&D Forgotten Realms. It's another one mana zombie. It is kind of beneficial to us because it does have a couple different abilities if it does get killed in the process. Like I said, -1/-1 to target creature and opponent controls, or we can just search the body, which we create a treasure token. And yet again, we can use this as sacrifice fodder for either our removal or the next card we're about to go over, which is Deadly Dispute, which is another card that's actually pretty awesome for the deck, as it is kind of like one of our ways we can draw cards in the deck by sacrificing a creature or an artifact that we control, and then we draw 2 cards and we create a treasure token. So if we, create a treasure token with the Shambling Gas, then we replace the treasure token with the Deadly Dispute kind of thing. It's a pretty cool mechanic that we kind of mess around with. Drawing 2 cards is definitely very good if we're trying to, get that card advantage against our opponent. They have Ghoul's Possession, which is another interesting enchantment here. This is something I only want to play a couple copies of. This is not something that we want 4 copies of, but it's an interesting enchantment that whenever one or more non-token creatures die, you get to create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decay. This ability to trigger only once each turn. So the one downfall to this, it only triggers once, so it's not like one of those things for each creature that died, we get a zombie to replace them. But it is one of those benefits if our opponent does play some sort of board wipe. It does benefit us in that sense, so it is a plus in that area. Then we have Infernal Grasp, which is kind of like the new 2-mana removal spell. I think this is probably the best one out of all the 2-mana removal. As it destroys target creature, we do, on the unfortunate side, do lose 2 life. But in the most parts, 2 life is not the worst thing, especially if our opponent gets out something pretty aggressive very early. So this is a pretty strong removal spell just because there's no additional steps other than the life loss. Because we are playing Snow Mana, we can play Priest of the Haunted Edge. It's a 2-mana 0/4. We can tap it to sacrifice it and give target creature -X to -X until end of turn, where X is the number of snow lands we control. As our Snow Mana is all our mana is Snow Mana. This will essentially be whatever mana we have out on the battlefield, and it's a 0/4 wall, so it's a pretty decent blocker, especially if our opponent's playing something aggressive or something hasty. Can eat a lot of damage without really, having to worry about, taking that early damage. And this is kind of like the next card on the list is the Blade Stitch Scab. It's a 1-mana or 2-mana blue and a black. Other zombie creatures we control get +1/+0. So it's a 2/3 Lord. Definitely makes it pretty decent for, not hopefully getting, get dealt damage by like a shock spell or something like that. Other than that, it's a pretty interesting spell. It makes our zombies that much more aggressive. Turns maybe like our 0/4 wall into a 1/4 wall, which is definitely pretty good. Maybe our opponent doesn't want to block in their small creature. Turns just Shambling Gas into a 2/1, which maybe makes it a little bit more threatening. Maybe our opponent is kind of forced to block it in that sense. So overall, pretty decent. 2 mana, 2/3, 2/3. Having 3 toughness is definitely very strong in a 2-mana slot. Then in the 5 mana slot, we actually skip 3 and 4, at least in the budget version, as I think this is the version we want to keep low to the ground because we want to get out things very quickly, overwhelm our opponent by playing a lot of zombies. And it's kind of overwhelming in that sense, and then hopefully finish them off before they kind of get into the mid to late game, because the deck doesn't really have anything to kind of keep it going, especially when we get to that point, especially in budget form. But we have Moracut Behemoth. It's a 5-mana 7/6. As additional cost to cast a spell, we must sacrifice a creature or pay 2 additional manas to make it a 7-mana cost 7/6. But the benefit of this creature, it does have Menace, which is definitely very, very good, especially because it makes this creature a little bit more evasive. Our opponent has to commit 2 blockers to it if they want to prevent the damage. And depending on the situation, this could be kind of what gets us the game, because 7/6 is definitely a strong creature. It doesn't have trample or anything, but it does make him commit 2 blockers at least to it. And like I said, the next card on the list is Nefari, Betrayer of the King. This is kind of our other zombie lord in the deck. This one actually gives him +1/+1, which is definitely beneficial, raising that toughness up just that little bit more. And if it does get removed from the battlefield, if it's not exiled, we can always tap 3 Snow Mana, which is the mana we play, and we can get it out onto the battlefield again at instant speed as long as we have the mana available. Like I said, the other thing too is our opponent plays any sort of discard spell, we can always discard it in the early game and get it actually out on turn 3 and kind of cheat it out in an earlier fashion, which is definitely one of those things that maybe our opponent doesn't realize that happens. So it's definitely a pretty cool spell. It's definitely something I've seen in some play tests that I did with the deck, where maybe our opponent was playing some sort of discard spell, and like I said, I discarded this, and the following turn I followed it up by replaying him and then was able to attack him for that additional damage. And then the mana base is pretty straightforward. We're not really playing a lot of blue. We're only playing blue really for the Nefari and the Blade Stitch Scab. So we're only playing, 4 copies of Ice Tunnel, 7 copies of the Snow-Covered Island, and 13 copies of the Snow-Covered Swamp. So overall, the deck is pretty affordable, pretty budget-friendly. Like I said, the only rare in the deck is Champion of the Parish at 4 copies, so it's something if you want to build up towards. It's definitely, a good card that I do think is probably one of the first zombie creatures that you probably want to craft, and then kind of go on from there. I know there's a couple other cards that we'll kind of dive into when we get to the upgraded version of the list. With that being said, let's dive into some gameplay. Let's kind of see how the deck performs. I kind of did a couple play tests before, so hopefully I keep that good, juju going from before because I did win the couple of games I did play. So with that being said, let's dive into gameplay and let's see how we do. All right, so our open hand is interesting to say the least. I'm gonna keep and kind of see how this goes. Hopefully we draw into other stuff, but it looks like our opponent is playing some either form of mono white or some sort of life gain. So we'll kind of see what happens here. So we may get steamrolled just because the deck is pretty decent. Interesting. So our opponent is playing, like I said, mono white of some sort. Maybe clerics. Sure. I guess that's the card they want to remove. Interesting. I mean, maybe they have another one. I don't really know. Whenever we gain life. Yeah, I guess they're playing some form of snow life gain. Teleportation circle. Alright. So they're playing a flicker deck, which is not terrible, but the thing is, I get a 2/2 out of it. And we'll just remove it. Well, we need another mana, so we'll remove it. I'll get my 2/2 back and we'll say go. Maybe they were thinking that they were just going to be able to teleportation their stuff. All right, so if they don't have any creatures, they can't really flicker much. Okay. Well, there goes their only creatures. So we'll attack in. I mean, maybe they have other creatures? I don't really know. So we'll just see how this plays out. I'm actually kind of curious. I could use another mana, which would be beneficial. I mean, they have Faceless Havens. Maybe they also play the enchantment, the mono white enchantment that you need 3 white mana to cast, and they've only drawn colorless mana. Sure. Are they going to trade? No? I'll play another one and see what happens. Yep. Sure. I mean, this is literally the strangest game. Our opponents, me and our opponent have both drawn multiple copies of like the same card. So it's actually kind of funny that right now, like the game has gone to the point that, sure, you finally got us. We'll say go. I really have no idea where this game's going. I'm just gonna leave because they're just gonna book and then they're gonna do whatever. So I'm not gonna play a game of stalling out. That's a deck that I'm not prepared to beat. To be quite honest, though I don't actually see that deck too often. I mean, you could put in some, some of the lands that destroy their creature lands. They're only uncommons, Field of Ruins, right? But it's definitely like one of those things that you don't see too often. Oh, right. The game really wants us to draw our Blade Stitches Scabs. This is the second game in a row. Sure. Are we on the play? I actually didn't read. I don't think the game started, so that means we're on the play, and I think our opponent's deciding if they want a mulligan or not. Island, go. Red mana. I think we play 0-4 here and kind of see what happens. They have some sort of stick, so they have either we're not playing snow mana, maybe they have a shock? Yeah, I'm unsure. I guess they like their D&D lore mana. Dragon's Breath? Goblins, interesting. Alright, so this should be a fun matchup. Do I just kill that? We're just gonna pass. Because they can't pump at least this bigger than the 1-4. I mean, they can kill the scab with like a dragon's breath. I don't know what other 3 damage royal eruption. Sure. You attack him for 2? No. Well, we'll do this. We'll play 2, and we'll say go. I mean, it's interesting what our opponent's doing here. Sure, they have another royal eruption. That's perfectly fine. They can pump and swing, but I mean, that doesn't do anything. They're 0-4s that just eat damage. Sure. So we'll do this. And we'll do this. And why not? We'll just sack 1 to this and give it -4, -4, so it does -1 damage, so we gain 1 life. Thank you. We'll say go. Sure. Sure. I'll take 1 damage. And we'll get rid of your other one. Yeah, I'll swing in. And then I'll just sacrifice this to my 7-6. Our opponent may scoop here. May. They're looking at it, and they're like, holy crap, an 8-6 right now in the battlefield. Maybe they have 2 removal spells that they can throw into it? No, I talked him into scooping. Yet again, 3rd game in a row. But this time we have a 1-drop, so I think that's a plus. That we're not on the play. So that's the 1- here. So we're gonna try our best to get as aggressive as possible, and maybe just try to overwhelm our opponent that way. All right, they have 2 mana, nothing played. Oh wow, the first time we don't have a hand that has our one that gives +1/+0. Yeah, I mean we'll play this and play gas and say go. Next turn we can leave up like something like dispute. All right, they're playing something snow. We'll swing in. And we'll say go. I guess we're not in any rush to really see what they're doing here. Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about it. That's a sorcery. Yeah, we'll say go. I mean, I'm sure they probably have a spell, but I feel like I'm in a good position here based on what I have on board. Like, whatever they do to it. I mean, sure, Snakeskin Veil is available, but sure. They realize if they, yeah, I was gonna say, they realize if they attack, right? That, and while I guess it's down, I'm gonna attack in for one, see if they block. Interesting. So that's the play they go with. Oh, oops. It's fine. I figured it out. Crisis averted. Though I don't have any zombies on the battlefield. So I'm kind of curious. They're not playing. They're playing. I'm confused. So they're playing Hog. Are they playing the starter deck? They're playing the starter deck. That's what they're playing. I know this deck. They're playing the counter starter. But they added in this, which is interesting because I don't feel like that works. You have Menace. You can swing in and get in for free damage, but I swing back for 4. So it's just a matter of if you want to do that or not. That's fine. So next turn I have like a little bit of a trick that I feel like I'm going to do after I play my Champion that Perished. Also, that's actually very strong play there. So we're just gonna swing it for 4. Just an easy 4. They may have something, so I don't really want to target it. I kind of want to wait for them to tap out. So it just makes it feel like there's a Snakeskin Veil lurking somewhere, just because they did play a creature that has Magecraft. They're looking. It looks like they're looking to fight this. So if they do, I could Deadly Dispute. I can get the token. Well, that's unfortunate. I won't have Snowman available though. But I will sacrifice this, and I will draw 2 cards, please. That's fine. I'm gonna try to kill this and see if they have something to save it. I'll take the 2 damage. Sure. How much mana is that? 3? Okay, so I have to kick it. I'll hit you for 1. I could have pumped. But they're probably going to play, like, what, Grakmaw? Sure. I'm kind of confused to what they're doing here. I think this is a starter deck with some modifications. I don't know, though. They have mana open. It is Grakmaw starter. Okay. And they foretell. Well, we'll return this. And we'll get removal? I mean, do they want to trade? I'm winning the race at the moment. They're tapped out. What happens? No, I guess we don't want to do that. Let's just wait and see what happens. Sure, it has Death Touch. They have, like, poison the cup? I mean, they're looking at their card they have flipped over. That's the only thing I can think of removal-wise, but I can just bring my creature back. Sure. Okay. It's back. Sure. I need more removal. But we'll do this. No attacks. Because I can just chump block all day. So unless they kill it. I'll take 1 point of damage. They can hit me for 3, I guess, technically, if they swing out. Okay. Well, you can't play removal off the top. You can only play creatures. Interesting. I can take 6, go down to 2. I mean, the only problem is if I draw the other removal, right? I mean, they had a pump regardless. Yeah, we just flooded out. Just flooded out. I could probably cut back on lands. And maybe get a couple more zombies in. Not a terrible hand. Nope, not the right card. Here we go. Say go. All right, they're playing something with red in it. Interesting. Play blue mana, and we'll say go. They're playing something gruel. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, why would you block? Why would you block? But we're going to wait and see what they play here. They may level up and not play a creature. So, I mean, I'm more than happy with that. That's fine. They're going to attack me, hit me for 3. That's also fine. But, I mean, if this is their only threat at the moment, I mean, I'm not really worried just yet. Yeah. I mean, I don't really know. I'm just going to leave it back now and just create a treasure, possibly. Sure. It's now daytime. We're going to block. Before damage, we'll sacrifice it. And we'll create a treasure. And we'll draw 2 cards. And we drew a Champion of the Perished. My turn. How do we want to do this? I guess it's champion first, right? And then it's the king? So then it gets it's at least a 3/3. Sure. We're gonna get rid of Tolvar, right? I can get rid of Oh, I can get rid of a Planeswalker too, but I mean the creatures are perfectly fine. I'm not worried about them right now. Sure. I don't think they realize what happens with this card, right? Do I take 5? I'll take the damage. Sure, you can draw a card. We're probably gonna get outvalued here. Just on the basis of what is happening. Um, I can pay the 4 mana. I can only do this at instant speed though. I gotta get rid of the 5/5. That's fine. Wait, what? Oh, because they have wolves. Yeah, we're just gonna get out of here because this is just a deck that's too much better than what we're playing. Yeah, I'll keep. They're playing Prismari possibly. Blue. Okay, blue tells a lot. I mean, just to be aggressive, I guess. If they have stuff to bounce, it's cool. I'm kind of curious. I'm thinking Prismari Dragons. They're going to second main, I guess. I don't. Sometimes you know you just gotta like, huh? Not playing snow. So we'll do this. If you want to counter that, it's perfectly fine. I create 1 zombie a turn. I'll pay the 1. What do I have for blue mana? Okay. I don't know why you would Jawari there with me having 3 mana. I guess if you wanted to burn it? It's an odd play. Alright, they're playing combo. Because it's the Kazul's Fury combo thing. So maybe they're just looking for like a good target. I'm just gonna look for the card that they have to burn to kind of do it, so they can't actually cycle and do the combo. And I'm just gonna swing at them. I could have played a creature. They've tapped. They have 2 mana, so we're just gonna wait and see. I don't want to force too much. They're at 3. End turn. I mean, they have the mana to possibly go off, but they have to have protection for counter, or they have to have protection for. What's this one? Sure. You have 3 mana, 4 mana. Okay. I was gonna play Fair Magic. Good game. It's a lethal board, but I respect it. And we are back to the post game. So overall, the budget deck kind of fared well. I think I was roughly probably around 50%. I don't really know if I have the tracker to keep track, but I think it was roughly around 50%. I feel like we won half the games, and then the games that we were just outmatched by like having people having rares and mythics. I can kind of feel that the games didn't go as well. But I mean, here is kind of like the deck list I'm kind of messing around with currently for the Dimir zombies right now with rares and mythics added in. Essentially, it kind of looks exactly the same as kind of like the one version. We do have some 3s and some 4 drops, which I do feel like maybe the deck is lacking. And I do think maybe the budget version I probably need to go over one more time, as I don't think it has enough creatures. It's kind of like the one thing I was kind of feeling. There was a lot of games where I felt like I was just drawing into lands. So there's that situation that maybe I'll have to rethink and look at what commons and uncommon zombies there are still available that I could always add more copies of in the deck. But what I kind of went with is 4 copies of Champion of the Parish in the upgraded version. I think this is a great card. We didn't really draw him too much to use him effectively. Shaman Gas is still great as a 1-drop just because its diversity of being, the 2 abilities that happens when it triggers when it dies. Infernal's Grasp is, I think, a very strong removal spell. It is the removal 2-drop spell currently in the format. Painted Adversary is an interesting card here. It's a 2/3 that has the pay 3 any number of times, so it's definitely good if we get mana flooded in a way. Then we get to put that many +1/+1 counters on it, and then we create twice that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. And as we kind of saw in the last game there, Decayed is just that cool effect where we swing in and the creature gets sacrificed, but it can't block. So it's definitely pretty cool, and this actually synergizes very well with, like, say, something of Champion of the Parish, just because we can actually, create at least even 2 additional zombies on top of this one. Then this gets up 3 counters, which is definitely good in that sense. Then we go with Wit, or Wit. I think it's Wit. Wit enters the battlefields tapped. Life Drain whenever a creature is dealt damage by Wit. This turn dies. Create a tap 2/2 black zombie creature token and exile that card. So it kind of has like this ability here that if it actually kills the creature that it attacked into maybe or blocked, that card is now exiled, and then we get a zombie out of it. So it's kind of one of our ways to create a zombie token in that sense. Blade Stitch Scab is kind of one of those things that in the beginning of the games we kept on drawing them in the early hands, and then towards the end we barely drew him. So he's definitely a zombie lord that does make our zombies that much more aggressive, which I think is a plus. Another cool card here is Rise of the Dread Marn. Is kind of one of those cards I've been messing around with. And I was kind of thinking of like what is kind of like that board weight protection. I do think this is actually a pretty interesting card that you could kind of throw into a zombie deck, as in the fact that we create X 2/2 black zombie berserker creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures that have died this turn. So if our opponent plays some sort of board wipe, and they even kill out their own creatures that are non-tokens, we get to create X zombie tokens on our side of the battlefield that are now going to attack into them at 1 mana if we foretell it. I do think this is kind of one of those things that will be kind of clutch in those scenarios. So definitely kind of a cool card that I'm messing around with. I haven't had too many scenarios where I had to flip it or play it in that sense, or have drawn it, because I only play 2 copies, as I don't think it's a card you want to draw all the time, but it's definitely kind of one of those things in those matchups where maybe someone plays board wipes, you kind of want something like this to have. Then we have Draugr, the Necromancer. It's kind of one of those things that is also pretty interesting. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile that card with an ice counter on it instead. Then we may cast cards among the exiled that we own with ice counters on them and spend any mana from snow sources as though they're made of any colors to cast those spells. So essentially, in a way, I was kind of messing around with it. We kind of take our opponent's creatures that may have died, and then we get to cast their own creatures on themselves, which is definitely cool. We have Death Draken Lich. It's a 4-mana 5/2 with flash. Yet again, creates interesting synergies with like something like Champion of the Parish that we can flash it in to kind of make Champion of the Parish that one little bit bigger. At instant speed, has flying. It comes in the battlefield tap, which is the one downfall, and then we may cast it from our graveyard if a creature not named it him has died this turn. So definitely one of those cards that if our opponent wipes the board, we can also get him back on the battlefield if our opponent has killed him on an earlier turn. In the 5-drop slot, we still kind of kept it there. I'm still keeping the Behemoth just because I do think it's kind of one of those interesting things. If we can kind of, sacrifice maybe one of our tokens or maybe like our Shambling Gas if it's still out, or pay the additional mana, it's definitely a pretty decent. It's not like an amazing card, but Menace is definitely very good, and it's definitely something that, puts a little bit of a threat on the battlefield that our opponent may have to deal with. If you don't like it at all, you can always add in more copies of, say, something like Ebon Death or possibly Draugr. But for everything else, I mean, we really do have 4 copies. And then we also have Nefari, Betrayer of the King. Like I said, this card's great. I don't know if I have the one matchup where I will be playing against a meter deck, and I just kept on, as our opponent kept on killing, I kept on paying the 3 mana just to kind of keep on getting it back from the graveyard over and over again. So definitely an interesting card in that sense that even if they kill it, they have to exile it, or we can pay 3 mana and just get it back on the battlefield regardless of what happens. And then the mana base has kind of changed up a bit as we added in a little bit more of the rare lands. We added in 4 copies of the Blue-Black Pathways, as well as a new Shipwreck Marsh, the Blue-Black land that comes in the battlefield untapped unless we control... it comes in the battlefield tapped unless we control 2 or more other lands. So definitely a good land in kind of like the late game situation, or I think they're called late lands. I forget what the exact name for them, but it's definitely an interesting deck list. And like I said, I'm still messing around with the list. Like I said, if there's cards that you don't really like in it, you can always go about and look at the other rares and kind of switch them out. But these are kind of the cards I'm kind of settling on right now. I know there's a couple other cards, like there's the one from the Forgotten Realms, the one that comes in the battlefield and you have to bounce it back to your hand unless you complete the particular dungeon. I didn't think that was very, very good in that sense, though it does protect you through the dungeon that kind of pings your opponent and also drains you a little bit. Other than that, I'm trying to think of like what other zombies stick out. I mean, if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. Let me know any feedback you guys want to give on any of the deck lists that you saw. If you've been playing the Dimir Zombies budget or like a version that has rares and stuff, let me know what you guys think of it. With that being said, guys, if you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely helps out a lot if you're new here, want to post new videos on the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Like I said in the beginning of the video, it puts a +1/+1 counter on the video, and I will see you later.